Hello and welcome to India Narrative Talks. Today I'm joined by Niti Ayog Vice Chairman Dr. Rajiv Kumar. Welcome, sir. Pleasure having you. And I also have India Narrative Editor Mr. Atul Aneja. Welcome, Atul.
Thanks, ma'am.
So, sir, the budget has been announced. What is your take on the budget overall?
I think it's a landmark budget. It breaks many taboos, it sort of breaks many shackles, and it's a budget which will set the stage for India to achieve its potential rate of growth in the decade to come. The first budget for this decade, and I think it's laid a very strong foundation because of its focus not only on health, which was expected, but on capital expenditure, capital public expenditure, focus on infrastructure, and some very major structural reforms, which will provide a different trajectory and a higher trajectory for the Indian economy. So this will be a milestone budget.
Do you think we would, once again, because of COVID, we had 1 year of disruption, that after this budget, we are on track to the $5 trillion economy goal which the Prime Minister announced?
Of course we are. And I think the $5 trillion economy India will achieve in any case. The question is how quickly. And that's and that I think now we lost some years, and therefore I'm sure that the year target is slipped. But I expect the Indian economy to be 5 trillion. Latest by the end of 2025. And I think you will get it. Because that, let me explain, because that in nominal terms, because that's always measured in nominal terms, that you will achieve a 15.5% rate of growth this year, in fiscal 22. That's nominal plus inflation. And the years going forward, my expectation is that you will get 8 plus 4, which is about 12%. At that rate, you will get a near doubling of the economy in 5 years. And therefore, we will cross $5 trillion mark by that year.
But you mentioned that there are certain very major structural reforms which have taken place. Could you identify or focus on some of the specifics?
I think the one which come to mind right away, for example, is the financial sector, where the FDI limit has been raised from 49% to 74%, with the safeguards that the foreign investor will not spirit away the profits back to the home country. So 50% have to remain within India. And that this will be a big change because the capital required for insurance company is very large. And our penetration levels in the insurance are very low. So this will now help provide that. But the second one, of course, is the privatization of 2 public sector banks and 1 general insurance company, and the listing of LIC. Now, this will require, the finance minister said that this will require an amendment in the Bank Nationalization Act, and so that will happen. Now, this will again create the necessary environment for public sector banks to become more efficient and competitive going forward. That's the second one. The third one is the introduction of the production-linked incentive schemes in 13 sectors. In 3 sectors have already been rolled out. In the 10 sectors I know it will be rolled out very soon because we will be working a lot on it. And the finance minister had allocated 1.97 lakh crore for the next 5 years for being handed out to cash handout to those industries, to those companies which will be prepared to establish globally comparable and globally competitive capacities in these 13 sectors. This is our attempt to become the China plus one in the manufacturing sector and make India a manufacturing powerhouse. And get out of this 16-17% share of GDP that manufacturing is at and stagnated at. Fourth is the setting up of the 7 major integrated textile parks, which will help generate employment and help India regain its position in the garment export.
How difficult do you think it's going to be to really bring in these reform measures?
Let me first let me say two things. One, that the lack of ability to disinvest to the target that we had announced earlier had, with due give the credit to the unions, has not been a result of the union opposition. It has been more a result of market conditions and more a result of getting our own act together, etc. And a lot of work has been done, and then of course a little bit of the COVID as well. So therefore, what we need to do now, and this is why I'm so it's so satisfying to see that the finance minister announced the setting up of a dashboard, which will be used for real-time monitoring of this process. That's the first time ever that something like that will be done. And a clear pipeline has been laid for all the sectors where asset monetization will take place. That's one part of it. The second part of it, however, is that all reforms in our country require and must require very active, widest possible stakeholder consultations and awareness in the public domain. The period of reform by stealth or reform by executive fiat is over. And then the Prime Minister has always insisted on this and been saying this. The Prime Minister, in fact, goes one step further. He says development has to be a Jan Andolan. See that everybody must finally get involved in the development process of the country, which reforms are a necessary part. And this is where we have to move to. And this is where at least we in Niti Ayog will do all our best to ensure that people are aware of what is being done and what is in it for them. You see, so that and there are of course winners and losers for every reform, and the losers have to be listened to, consulted, and satisfied.
Are we synchronizing are we taking the big picture in mind and doing the math for it and creating conditions for absorbing that extra labor into manufacturing?
Atul, you are almost wanting us to become a centrally planned economy. And I'm afraid that's not the idea.
So how do you
Let's rely a lot on the demand and supply conditions of different sectors. Now, as an example, we have done, let's say, the necessary work for 13 sectors, yes, where capacity will expand, where output will expand, etc. Now, these should be, and where exports will mount. On the exports, however, I have insisted always that with less than 2% of our share in world goods markets and about 3% share in services markets, we are nowhere near being affected by minor downturns and turbulations in the world markets. We have to get our act together and we can assume the demand to be infinite. China today has 15%, right? And we were together, we were the same in 1991, Chinese and our export share. So therefore, let's not go on about with export pessimism. And for every country in our economic situation, the per capita income of about $2,000, external demand must play a very important role in raising per capita income and in employment, and generating employment, and the transition to a middle income country. Therefore, it's very important for us to ensure that we have a very coherent and aggressive export strategy for goods, services, and some commodities as well, and for agriculture.
But there is one issue which is coming after COVID, which is that the old supply chains at least seems to be getting disrupted. So, I remember September 1st, probably India, Australia, commerce ministers had met, and Japan, to think of a alternate supply chains which did not include China. So, are we moving in that direction of creating or be part of alternate supply chains which may be coming up?
This is exactly what I said earlier about the production linked incentive scheme. those who are moving out of China are being invited here and being told that we'll give you 1.97 lakh crore over the 5 years as fiscal incentive. This is why the small and medium enterprises definition has been changed from 5 crores revenue to 250, no, from 25 crores to 250 crores, so that they can become integrated into those production chains. This is why we are setting up the integrated textile parks, so that those who are moving out of Southeast Asia or southern China can come and establish their capacities and lines here. So all of this is being done in that particular direction. More than that, again, government is not going to be in the business of setting up their own production network and say no. They have to be the private enterprises within the country or outside. And finally, I have been personally involved in talking to several Japanese companies, who are wanting to expand capacity in India, and also the Taiwanese companies, because they see India as they want to come here to de-risk their own operation.
Geopolitical conditions have emerged in the last 1 year or so, and perhaps Taiwan becomes a very attractive source for investments. So it's interesting to say that Japan and Taiwan are two countries. Taiwan, of course, whatever the status you may say, are two destinations.
There's no harm in it.
Yeah. So
no, but we need to connect with Taiwan.
So
we have to connect with Taiwanese investors. We have done that in the past.
Right.
It's not.
Are we
strong?
Yes.
Strong is about to establish it, has established.
But we have also pulled out from ourselves. So how important do you think is to go into these kind of blocks?
Are we preparing ourselves with the kind of vision which you have just said to get into these kind of blocks?
At our timing and our interests.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Right.
All the blocks are very welcome, they're important, but not on terms which doesn't suit our national interests and our level of preparedness. That's the thing. Now, therefore, that's the bottom line that I'm mentioning.
Defense industry as a driver of both growth and employment. Is that?
Yes, of course. You've seen what's happened over the last 5 years. Yes. More and more focus on indigenous defense procurement, more and more focus on defense exports, more and more focus on improving the private sector participation in defense production. So clearly what you're seeing, the government is heard and is hearing. So there is, and also, the strong attempt at blurring the lines, the distinction between public and private sector. So therefore, that's the way to go. And we are doing it. Yeah? Tejas wouldn't have happened otherwise.
I know, and this is a big one. 84 brains.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Not at all.
Thank you.